What's going on, everyone? This is Terrence here with 1010 Studios, and today we're going to be talking about the Touch Mix 30 versus the Behringer X32. So glad you can join us here today. We're going to be talking about these two famous brands and mixer types in order to kind of go over the differences and things of that nature. And first things first, we want to thank you for joining us. For those who have not been to this channel before, here is where we talk about a number of different things in regards to pro audio. So first things first, these are two very popular brands, QSC and Behringer. Behringer has been around for quite a while. QSC has been around for quite a while as well. Definitely, these are brands that are in the market for pro audio and very well known, very reliable, very trustworthy in their own respects. And today we're going to be talking about these two particular mixers, the X32. Now there's a few different versions of the X32. So today we're going to be speaking of the X32 Compact, which is probably one of the more popular ones for, bands and houses of worship and different venues to have in their setup. And then also we're going to be talking about the QSC Touch Mix 30. They call it 30 Pro, I believe. And we're going to talk about some of the differences. But before we get into that, we definitely want you to give us any sort of input you may have in regards to what you think, and we want you to drop us in the comments if you've used any of these two brands or others in the past or currently. Please let us know what your brand of choice is. Let us know what brand you prefer, and let us know why. Now, when I say let us know why, give us something in regards to, be it reliability, be it features, be it layout, be it workflow, things of that nature, just to give us an idea of where you stand in regards to what you've used in the past, what you currently use, things of that nature, and what you prefer. So, without further ado, we're going to talk about a few different things here. First things first, we're going to talk about there's another version of these kind of mixers on a smaller scale, and that is going to be the Behringer X18. There's also I believe an X12, I believe, is the model. And then same thing with QSC. There's a Touch Mix 16 and there's a Touch Mix 8. So for those who need a smaller amount of channel inputs, smaller amount of functionality, smaller footprint, there are different versions out there. But the main focus today is going to be with the X32 and the Touch Mix 30. So just to kind of start from the very obvious, somewhat obvious, is that the X32 has a lot more buttons, a lot more physical buttons, a lot more knobs, things of that nature. And let's kind of just look at the X32 by itself. So as you can see from top to bottom, I mean, you got the, a good amount of buttons and knobs. Not as much as a analog mixer, but definitely a lot more than the Touch Mix 30. So you have the EQ settings, some of the compressor settings, also your selecting channels and your faders, your mute buttons and such like that, your solo buttons, and then your different presets on the far right there, your subgroups, your mute groups and things of that nature. You have all those kind of buttons on the 32, the X32. Now, when you look at the Touch Mix 30, you have, a decent amount of buttons, but definitely not as many. At the very top, you have your gain knobs for your input. You have like your menu and settings on the right side of the touchscreen. And you also have a few different customizable buttons as well and such. So therefore, the button choice or the button selections are a lot less than the X32. And here's the comparison. I mean, if you count on a Touch Mix in total in regards to buttons, You got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20, like roughly 23 buttons on here. And then also the power button. So roughly 23, 24 buttons. Now, if you look at the X32, you have, per channel, you have at least one button at the top row there. So that right there is 16. And then if you count the buttons on the far right-hand side, in regards to that, let's go back to the 32 here real quick. If you count the 16 buttons at the very top where that green button is there, and you go to the far right, that's going to be 16 buttons right there, I believe. Yeah, and then you have also, so right there, you got way more buttons, knobs, faders, things like that. Now, some people like that kind of form factor. This is definitely a good mix and kind of good mix of both worlds, the digital world and an analog world. So for those who come from an analog kind of, training or upbringing, or kind of that's just the way that you were learned about audio and mixing, or was taught audio mixing, you want to have that feel compared to just the digital feel itself. So that in itself can be a plus for sure, because a lot of times the software versions, if there's any hiccups or any bumps in the road, it can definitely slow down your changing of the guard, so to speak. So once again, looking at the TouchMix 30 and the X32 compared to one another, there's a number of obvious differences. Now, also from this picture, you may not be able to tell, but the X32 has a larger footprint, a much larger footprint than the TouchMix 30. Now, these are, side by side here, but these are not actual sitting on the same table side by side. These are just picture representations. So therefore, it's kind of just for a visual, idea of how it looks. Now, when it comes to the TouchMix 30, let's get a single shot of that here. When you look at the TouchMix 30, you have those, like I said, those gain knobs at the very top, and then you have a few different menu option buttons on the right, and your jog wheel as well to navigate and make selections and change levels and things of that nature. So most of the actual functionality is going to be pretty much related to your touchscreen or to your iPad, your Android tablet device of choice, in order to make those changes and selections, be it for mixing, be it for monitors, whatever it might be. So it's more touchscreen based, tap and rotate that wheel, tap and rotate the wheel, things like that. So it's a two-handed operation, and it's pretty simple and straightforward. Now, let's talk about some of the pros of the X32. So obviously one of the pros is that it has a decent amount of space. It has some very good functionality. It does have that touch screen. Sorry, not the touch screen. They have a screen on there for representation, not a touch screen. And also you get the feel as if you're on an analog mixer to a certain point. And it has a number of banks in regards to your channels, in regards to your effects and your aux mixes and your monitors, things of that nature. Very easy to navigate through. Worked with it quite a bit, and it's pretty much a standard in a lot of people's setup. Be it churches, like I said, be it bands, or just places, venues who have live bands. Now, if you ask somebody, hey, what do you prefer to use, a Behringer or a TouchMix? I mean, you're going to probably get, mixed bag of answers. Some people say, I don't want to use either one of them. They'd rather use a different mixer for whatever purpose is, be it Presonus or otherwise, Mackie, things of that nature. And even the Allen and Heath. Allen and Heath makes some very good mixers, be it digital, even previous analog technology type as well. Now, some of the big benefits with this is it's easy to use. It has the feel of having an analog kind of a button pressing and fader throws and things of that nature. It does have motorized faders, so this way, as you switch between the layers, meaning your channels, be it 1 through 8 or 9 through 16, things like that. 9 through 16 or anything else like that, you're able to see the faders move as needed. Very good sound, very good quality, very reliable. It does have little hiccups here and there, little funny little, I guess you could say ghost in the machine type situations occasionally. However, still reliable, and it is very well used throughout the actual gigging musicians, gigging band industry. Now, for the touch mix here, this itself also is very widely used for musicians, bands, things like that, houses of worship. And biggest benefit on this one is that the footprint is smaller. It's a lot easier to carry and move around. It does have some weight to it, but still is much lighter in my opinion than the 32. Now there's like I said, a couple of different versions of the X32. There's the X32 Compact, then there's a full version, then there's the X32 Producer. They all have different sizes, and also they're geared towards different, I guess, uses, so to speak, based upon what they're going to be using it for. And so I feel they probably figured we need to make a couple of versions because the main version is just too large to be for everyone's use. So hence the different options. QSC, however, has made it where it's compact enough where they don't have to make two other different versions of it. Other than channel count, the Touch Mix 16 and Touch Mix 8, that's about the only differences in regards to the functionality or size compared to just the functionality. Now here, some of the biggest benefits on this one, other than the form factor and size, is the fact that you're able to customize your banks, which is one. Two, good preamps, good sound coming out of it no matter what, very, very easily learnable. And also, it's very customizable. Each channel has their own, of course, settings and such. And then it also gives you the ability to have wireless connection for, say a band or a group that wants to control their own monitors, be it in-ear monitors or stage monitors. You can give them specific control so they don't affect one of the other channels, meaning a monitor channel or anything else for that matter, which is excellent. Now, with the X32, you don't have that option. So therefore, if you're on the wrong monitor mix on your tablet of sorts or of your choice, you might be making some changes on your fellow musicians or fellow singers' monitor, and they may not really like that much, and they might look at the audio engineers if something's gone wrong with what you're doing. And in actuality, it is their bandmate. So that can put you furthermore in a hot seat. For things like that. So definitely I would choose to have the Touch Mix 30 for that purpose. Now, when it comes to things like the X18 and the Touch Mix 16, even though they are smaller in size, they do 90%, if not more, of what their big brothers, big sisters do. Main difference is the channel count. And I mean, the only thing I can think of on the QSC that makes any major difference is the fact that you have, 16 channels input, for XLR quarter inches. And then you also have, well, actually more than that, but for just the typical connections. And then the fact that you're not able to customize the banks 1 through 8 and 9 through 16. Not a huge deal. Still has a good amount of monitor count. And the other difference is that this one is not able to be used as a actual audio interface for your computer or for your digital workstation, which kind of made me wonder a little bit, why didn't they give that functionality? However, it could have been a cost thing because it can be a little bit costly to get some of these. Now, the X18, however, even though you see very few, actually really no buttons, it's just a knob and a few switches here and there, other than the power switch, the main difference on this one is that you can only operate it through an app. That's the only connection that you would have to it to manipulate, change, and such. Now, depending upon your setup, depending upon your needs, this could be a great thing, or this can be a little bit of a challenge. So for those who are, going to use it for bands, rehearsals, shows, or live events, things like that, recordings, live streams, I mean, once you get it pretty much set, you really don't have to do much. Now, if you're doing live sound itself, you have to rely on the app and rely on the connection you have and, just hopefully there's no glitches that'll slow down your progress or your changing of the sound as needed for a live stream or for a live event. For those who don't want to trust it, which I don't see no reason why you shouldn't, As long as you got a good solid connection, you're okay. Now, as you can see, this one has an antenna. It has its own Wi-Fi built in for the Behringer X18. However, it's not going to be the strongest. It's going to be pretty much just an option. So I'll always recommend to get a different wireless router to connect to the X18 in order to get the best possible signal to the device and keep your connection strong as possible. Now, some of the major benefits on the X-Air itself, the X-Air 18, is form factor for sure. I mean, it's pretty much like a stage box. You can put it pretty much anywhere on the stage or close to your setup of sorts. Really low key, very much out of the way, and it's pretty rugged rather, compared to being very touchy or very sensitive to drops and things like that. Now the QSC Touch Mix 16, on the other hand, it's solid. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't treat it the same way I treat the X18. It's just not made for being on a challenging environment for the most part, to say the least. Because some things when it comes to live events, live bands, live sound situations, things can get a little bit rough, a little bit dicey when it comes to things dropping, spilling, being bumped around, stepped on, all types of stuff. Now, no matter which device that you might choose here, definitely, you want to make sure that they're connected to a power conditioner of sorts, surge protector, or anything of that nature to help it not get, hit by any kind of crazy electrical issues as you're out and about. Because your power at your home or your studio might be good, but if you go somewhere else, you never really know until it's a little bit too late. We don't want you to have any issues about that. And if you have any kind of situations where you've used any of these devices and you'd like to give your own comparison, we definitely would like to hear from you. So drop us a comment and let us know what your experiences are. And this is between either the Touch Mix 30 and the X32, or between the X18 and the Touch Mix 16. Either of these two, if you've ever used them, one by one, or pretty much 1 month and another day, another event, whatever it might be, let us know what your experiences are. And like I said, what's your brand of choice? Do you prefer another brand for some reason? And let us know why. We'd like to know. We really want to know what you're thinking in that respect. So that kind of concludes what we're going to be discussing here today in regards to the Touch Mix 16 and the X18, as well as the X32 and the QSC Touch Mix 30. So definitely we appreciate you watching us and checking us out here today. If you haven't subscribed to the channel so far, let us know. Subscribe to us here today. We'd be happy to, get in connection with you. And also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and things of that nature. So until next time, stay tuned and stay blessed.